Deep in the heart of the human psyche, there lie desires that defy comprehension, that challenge our understanding of self and society. One such desire that lurks within us is the inexplicable yearning to amputate one's own limbs. It is called body integrity dysphoria. But going even further, there are some people who have a yearning to castrate themselves. To most, it's a terrifying idea that shakes the very foundations of our conceptions of self-preservation and identity. The act of self-castration, then, is not merely an act of self-mutilation, but a brutal assault on the very essence of our humanity. This is the Eunuch Maker. Before we start, if you find this video fascinating, then at the end, please drop it a like and let me know what you thought about the case. It helps the channel. Also, don't forget to hit subscribe for more. Thank you. I just want to mention that the first segment of this video only has a very small amount of real images. Recently in the news, I read about a case that shocked me. In London, a man named Marius Theodore Gustafsson appeared in court, accused of perpetrating and broadcasting castrations on his Bazaar Eunuch Maker website. Gustafsson, 44, originally from Norway and residing in London, is believed to be the ringleader of a twisted group of men arrested in various locations across the UK. The group carried out shocking amateur surgeries in a basement apartment in Finsbury Park, North London, to broadcast the events on a pay-per-view website called Eunuch Maker to paying subscribers. The 9 individuals involved now face charges in connection with the removal of penises and testicles. Pay-per-view castrations. This blew my mind. Investigators spent 3 days combing through Gustafsson's apartment as they unearthed the activities of this cult known as Nullos, a reference to genital nullification. A police raid on the apartment lasted over a week, with officers collecting computers and other potential evidence from the scene. One neighbour recounted, the police operation took about 10 days. It was quite lengthy. Officers entered wearing masks and PPE. One officer was stationed outside the residence 24 hours a day. I saw the suspect about 3 weeks prior. Gustafsson mentioned to the neighbour that the situation was related to his untrustworthy roommate. The neighbour continued, I recall seeing the police going through the trash. I was clueless as to what they sought. I'm not familiar with the man, but I believe he has a disability, as he is missing a leg. I was concerned, since there's a school across the street. Gustafsson was the only one living at the apartment, and he was dubbed the Eunuch Maker. He was taken into custody on suspicion of conspiring to inflict grievous bodily harm. He is believed to manage a film production company and has experienced the same procedure as the 6 other detained individuals. He said in an interview that he had his genitals removed because he wanted to look like a Ken doll, with nothing down there. He also claimed that he kept the removed appendages in his freezer or stored them in alcohol inside his flat. Gustafsson is also what is known as a cutter. This is someone who performs crude surgeries for people wishing to remove their genitalia. He has cut 58 people, and despite his insistence that the procedure was carried out in a highly professional manner, his neighbours on the residential street reported seeing ambulances frequently visiting the property and expressed suspicions about a large black tent in the backyard. Gustafsson said that he used a Burdizzo castration device to, and quote, help others achieve their goal. Gustavon recently appeared in court in a wheelchair, along with his co-defendants. It was revealed that he himself had his own penis, leg and nipples removed. I find this incomprehensible, that someone would willingly remove their own genitalia and leg. The group face a litany of charges, including 5 counts of GBH with intent, making and distributing indecent images of children, and possessing criminal property. The GBH charges, including the removal of a man's penis, the clamping of another's testicles, and the freezing of a leg, which required amputation. The Metropolitan Police have stated that the charges are connected to 13 victims, and that the alleged crimes were committed between 2016 and 2022. The gruesome enterprise is believed to have generated a staggering £200,000 in revenue. As this harrowing case unfolds, it got me thinking, there must be more cases like this, more Eunuch Makers. The most famous Nullo is Mao Sugiyama, and this is an infamous tweet he shared. Please retweet. I am offering my male genitals, full penis, testes, scrotum, as a meal for 100,000 yen. I will prepare and cook as the buyer requests. On his 22nd birthday in 2012, Sugiyama had his genitals removed and frozen, but instead of this being the end, he organised a Bazaar dinner featuring musical entertainment, a panel discussion, and finally a main course of beef and crocodile. 70 people attended for this meal, but for 5 people who paid 100,000 yen, they would feast on what was called the special meal. Although Sugiyama describes himself as asexual, before the meal had taken place, he had gone on a month-long sex binge to make sure he had no regrets about the procedure. But before he had the operation, he had to be medically checked for diseases. He did consider eating his own genitals, but thought there was more artistic expression in letting others eat it. After he made the post on Twitter, it quickly gathered a lot of attention, and this is why he turned it into more of an event. It was called Century Banquet. Dressed in a chef's attire, Sugiyama eerily prepared the genitals by seasoning and braising them over a portable gas cartridge burner. A select group of 5 individuals, intrigued by the macabre, paid roughly $250 per plate for this grisly meal, while the other diners watched on. The 5 daring diners included a couple drawn by their morbid curiosity, a male manga artist, a 22-year-old woman, and an event planner, with ages spanning from 22 to 32. After eating the meal, the diners were underwhelmed. They said it had a rubbery texture and a bland taste. Images of the sinister dish revealed a sliced penis, a severed testicle and scrotal skin, adorned with a sparse layer of pubic hair, garnished with parsley and button mushrooms. Later, a professional chef stated, "The chef didn't cook it right. What a waste of a perfectly good penis. Penis is pretty tough, and it needs to be slow cooked, in something like a braise." The evening was not without its legal ramifications. At some point during the meal, Sugiyama made a joke, saying that the meal reduced his chances of being charged with indecent exposure, but that was in fact what he was later charged with. Because cannibalism is not illegal in Japan, the authorities could do nothing on this part, but many people, including the mayor, were outraged. So they went after Sugiyama. Before he cooked his own genitalia, the penis, scrotum and testes were on display to all the diners at the event. He was later arrested for indecent exposure, which carried a fine of 32,000 yen and up to 2 years in prison. But Sugiyama fought back. He argued that the whole event was for raising awareness to sexual minorities, ex-gender and asexual people, and that the indecent exposure charge could not apply, as everyone at the meal was aware of what they were attending. This worked, and all charges against Sugiyama and his vile meal were dropped. I'd like to bring to your attention another chilling case related to Nullo culture, which unveils the cannibalistic tendencies within this community of eunuchs. On a night in October, a 28-year-old man, pale and weak from severe blood loss, staggered into the McAllister Regional Health Center in southeastern Oklahoma. He was profusely bleeding from the crotch area. The petrified man recounted his horrifying ordeal to the medical staff, revealing that he had been castrated in a remote cabin deep within the woods. The person who performed the castration was a man who went by the name of Alan, who had chillingly declared himself a cannibal, boasting about a gruesome collection of human body parts he stored in a refrigerator. The unnamed 28-year-old victim revealed he had been scouring the internet for castration services when he encountered a website. This is where he came into contact with Bob Lee Allen, 53. A welcome message from the Eunuch Maker and the EM crew greeted visitors on the website's registration page. Allen boasted of his 15 years of experience in the gruesome practice, assuring the victim that the surgery would be performed at no cost. The victim travelled from Virginia to Dallas, where he was escorted by Allen to the eerie cabin in the desolate southeastern woods. It was both Bob Lee Allen and his partner, Thomas Evans Gates, 42, who performed the procedure. The pair had listed their cabin on Mr. B&B, a home sharing service for the LGBTQ community. It was named Bob's Weekend Wonders Mountain Retreat. This is the ad that was placed. When the victim arrived, Allen told him that he filmed the procedures for his personal use. On a makeshift table inside the cabin, Allen performed the surgery whilst Gates handed him surgical equipment. The victim said that he received injections in, quote, the needed areas, and that he was awake during the entire 2-hour procedure. As the gruesome operation unfolded, Allen unnervingly boasted to the victim about having previously killed a man during a similar procedure, and that he had 6 more macabre surgeries planned. These were certainly not the words anyone would want to hear in such a horrifying situation. Once the grisly task was complete, Allen callously informed the victim that he intended to consume the dismembered body part, and with a sinister laugh, disclosed that both he and his partner were cannibals. During this confession, Allen recounted a disturbing incident where he performed a similar operation on a man who was evidently mentally unstable. When the man angered Allen, he cold-heartedly left the man open after the operation so he would bleed out and slowly die overnight. But Allen didn't stop there. He went on to reveal a collection of human body parts stored away in a refrigerator. Whilst the victim was on the table, Allen was showing him morbid photos on his mobile phone. He then started to try and persuade the victim to join him and his partner in a twisted, cannibalistic meal that very evening, to which the victim refused. The day following the operation, the victim was bleeding heavily. Allen reluctantly agreed to transport him to the hospital, but earlier, Allen had warned the victim against seeking help, saying no morgue, no ER, and he threatened him on the way to the hospital saying that if he lost consciousness or succumbed to his injuries, his lifeless body would be discarded in the woods. Luckily, Alan had a change of heart, and when they both arrived at the hospital, Alan told the victim to tell the medical staff that these wounds were self-inflicted. The victim bravely disclosed the horrifying truth to the hospital staff, who subsequently alerted the authorities about the unlicensed surgery. The following day, investigators descended upon the eerie cabin, where they unearthed a frozen plastic bag containing testicles in a bedroom. In a grim conclusion, Alan and Gates were apprehended when they visited the victim in the hospital. The duo faced felony charges, including performing an unlicensed surgery, conspiracy to commit unlicensed surgery, maiming, and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. The pair were also charged with a misdemeanor for failure to bury removed parts, and one felony related to substances uncovered in the cabin. An officer working on the case said of the crimes, "I can't say it's cult activity. It's something that we have never, in my career, run across in this part of the country. It is borderline some type of activity. We know there's a lot of rumours out there, but at this time, there's no danger to the public." The reasons for self-mutilation can be intricate and unfathomable. Is the urge to castrate oneself just a sinister fascination? Or is it a need to relinquish their masculinity? Or is it a pursuit of self-inflicted agony? I find this topic deeply fascinating, but I still don't understand why people would willingly want to lose their limbs. Please let me know what you think about this in the comments. That's the end of this episode. Until next time, stay sane.